Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Oh, yeah, for sure. First off, I just want to thank my parents. I owe a lot to them. They, whether they like it or not, are the ones that got me interested in movies, and it's what spurs me on to create. And I'll always love them for it. And also thanks to you for watching this. And we're gonna dive right into the episode without a lot more of this fake prologue, so you can just enjoy and get on with your life. Well, folks, since the Academy Awards are happening this weekend, I thought I'd take a video to tell you a little bit about that if you're not familiar with it, or maybe you are a little bit familiar, but you just want to know some fun, interesting facts about it. So here we go. This episode will be entirely about the Oscars. So fact number one, the Oscars have been happening since 1929. This makes this year the 90th year. 3,048 Academy Awards have been given out across all of those ceremonies since that date. Specifically the Oscar, which is referred to as the Oscar, but the official title is the Academy Award of Merit. The reason that it took on the name Oscar is because that's what it was dubbed when it first came out in 1929 as a result of, there's a few theories surrounding who it's named after specifically, but the most important part is that that's what they call it now. It doesn't really even matter who it was named after. I don't think we'll ever find out for sure. Now this year there are 24 awards being given out. In previous years there have been a few less, but they've kind of raised it up to a standard set of awards that are given out each year so you know what to expect. I'm not sure if they'll ever add categories anymore, and there might be the intent of the whole ceremony that they won't be adding anymore ever, but you never know. There are always new and interesting things that are happening with movies, so any year now we could just have a new category announced. I think that'd be super interesting to see what that would be. So the second thing I'd like to talk about is who qualifies for these awards. The general rule is that a film to qualify for that year's awards, if it's hosted in 2018, for example, the 2017 season is what they will be presenting awards for. So a movie will have had to have opened between January 1st of that previous full calendar year all the way to December 31st at midnight. That's why you can have some nominations and things for movies announced that haven't necessarily come out yet. It's because it's in anticipation of them being released during that calendar year. Now, sometimes there are weird little technicalities because one of the other stipulations is that it has to run for 7 calendar days, either in New York City as a premiere or Los Angeles County. And so if something doesn't fit those guidelines either, they might be bumped to us another year to be able to be eligible for an award. The one case of this is example of the movie The Hurt Locker. The year that it was released, it didn't have its full 7-week run until the following year, so it didn't qualify for that previous year's awards. I think the 2008 awards, it had to wait until 2009 to run. So it was almost like 2 years later that people were hearing about it, when in reality it was just because of the timing of when it was eligible to run for a nomination. Now, another stipulation is that for at least the movie awards, that is not the documentaries or foreign films, it has to be at least 40 minutes long. That's, I think, to stop the market from being flooded with all of these side projects or small projects, which are eligible for some of these smaller short film or foreign film or best documentary or etc. And to keep the bulk of the high prestige awards for full-length feature films. Number 3. Who gets to vote? Well, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, aka AMPAS, aka the Academy, has roughly 6,000 members, usually just under that. Now, people that are members of this organization may be nominated either due to something called competitive nomination, which is when several nominees are put up for a certain position. I don't know if there's positions on the board, but traditionally it would be something like 10 people's names being put forward to run for an office, and people choose out of that pool by kind of a vote, or somebody's name specifically might be nominated due to their significant contribution to the field of motion picture or film arts, which I think is really cool. However, for comparison, there's only about 33 to 35% of the eligible voters that are former nominees or winners of the award itself. And the majority of the board is male, and over 50% of them are 55 years of age or older. So it kind of seems that there's not that big of a demographic represented across the board. However, I think is what we've been seeing from more recent years throughout the ceremonies and throughout politics outside of the ceremonies. I think we're going to start to see that changing a little bit. I know that we can only hope for the best, so let's just expect that. And maybe we'll see some of that diversity spread out from there into the nominations for the movies themselves and the cast and crews involved. And lastly, just I found some fun facts about this upcoming Oscar season. All 5 out of the 5 nominees for Best Sound Mixing are also nominated for Best Sound Editing. Now those two are a little bit different in their categories. If you want to know more, I'll put a link to it in the description below. But this is the first time in Oscar history that all 5 have also mirrored the 5 for mixing and editing nominations. So that's pretty cool. John Williams, of course, what a great guy. Love his music. He's now broken his own record, which he seems to break every couple of years, for the most nominated individual at the awards ceremonies. He's been nominated 51 times. And Merryl Streep, bless her, she is the most nominated performer at the awards, and as of this year has continued to raise that standard. She's now at 21 overall nominations. Now, this is also the first year that a comic book has been adapted for a screenplay and has been nominated for such an award, and that movie is Logan. It seems like forever ago that we saw that movie, doesn't it? And this was actually just from last year, so I'm really excited to see what happens with that. Typically, comic book movies aren't, I think, considered just serious enough to run for these awards. You'll see things like Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy in Best Visual Effects or something like that. To be considered for an adapted screenplay, I feel like it just has to have a more mature content, and I think Logan really hit that nail on the head. Finally, Rachel Morrison, she has become the first female cinematographer to be nominated for Best Cinematography. And I think that that's a huge accomplishment. Again, part of that diversity is people are looking to see people of color and both male and female being nominated for things as part of a whole equality movement or movements that are out there. So I think that this is a good step in that direction. She's being nominated for Best Cinematography, specifically on the movie Mudbound, which is a movie on Netflix. And if you aren't watching this too late, I suggest going ahead and watching that movie. I just did. It's a little bit mature. It's an R rating, so just as a fair warning, but I think it is a really, really well done movie. I couldn't stop just analyzing all the scenes as I was watching it. Again, I knew she was nominated for cinematography, so I was looking at some of that stuff, but just very impressive, very almost simple but clean shots, just very easy to establish. I feel like I could walk into the field and mirror that exactly, which I know that I probably can't, but it just felt so natural. It just felt like you set a camera down and just shot, and it looked beautiful. But she also worked on the cinematography for Black Panther, which if you haven't seen that movie, wow, go see that movie too. Fantastic movie. So there's a lot of really great things happening for the award ceremony this year. Jimmy Kimmel's hosting again. He hosted last year, and this is actually the only second time in Oscar history that a host has hosted back-to-back years. The last time it happened was years ago with Billy Crystal, but it's not a very common thing for people to host back-to-back, although some people have hosted a couple of times. So anyways, that's all I have to say for this week. If you want, you can follow me along on Twitter on Sunday, March 4th at 7 p.m. Me and a bunch of my friends are going to be tweeting out during the Oscars presentations just because it's something fun to do. So you can follow along with us with OscarsRLive, the hashtag. And other than that, we'll see you next time. I'd like to thank the sound mixer, but not the sound editor, or is it the other way around? I can't remember. I was at odds with one of you. I'd also like to thank my trusted gaffer. Yeah, you all know who that is. And thanks again. Thanks very much.